Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. In the past, I've done a video or two about twisting wire, but I've never really done one with some variations on it. And so I'm going to make 5 different twisted wire ring styles. And I will be using mixed metals. Some will be silver, some will be copper, some will be both. So we'll see how they turn out. Um, Before we do that, though, I'd like to thank some people. First, I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon. They're my core group of supporters. I have a brand new one, Joe H. Thank you for signing up. I appreciate it. I think you'll find that it's a really nice group of people. I truly appreciate not only their financial support, but the kindness and the knowledge that they share with me. And it's a great place. I really enjoy interacting with them over there. So the other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 23,300, if I remember right. So that's a pretty high number, and I never ever thought that that would be the case with my channel. So thank you for signing up and subscribing. I appreciate the support. I also appreciate when you leave comments. I love hearing that I've had some sort of positive impact on your life. That's always nice to hear. I do appreciate the buy me a coffees, the super thanks, the merch purchases, the ebook purchases. All that really makes this sustainable for me and makes it so I can make a living here. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, well, let's get started on these twisted wire rings. So this is one of my design idea sketchbooks where I draw up my ideas. They're useful not just for that, but most of the ones that I have on my site have different charts on the back. This one has a gauge to inches to millimeters chart, which I use pretty frequently. It also, like I said, provides a nice place to draw up your designs, and that way you have a record of it. I also like the grid pattern that's in the background. I find that super useful since I'm not a terribly talented sketch artist. So I didn't even bother to sketch these ones up because I'm not sure exactly how they're going to look, and the intricacies of twisted wire can be hard to draw for me. So, but I will go over what I'm going to do. The first one I'm going to do twist together a piece of 18 gauge copper and 18 gauge silver, and then I'm going to double it back on itself and twist it again. And if you do it just right, you can get it to turn up a nice pattern that looks different than just a regular twisted wire. So we'll do that and make a ring out of it. Second, I'm going to take, I have this, we had some electrical work done recently, and the guy left me some cut off pieces of copper wire that's about 12 gauge, so I'm going to twist 3 of those together, and I'll probably flatten it because it's going to be pretty thick to see how what kind of a look it gives us. I think it'll look nice as a ring. This I've never done, and I'm not sure if it's going to work, so it'll be an experiment, but I'm going to pre-twist 2 pieces of 16 gauge square just on itself, and then try and twist those together to see what kind of a look we can get. I don't think twisting 2 squares together would look particularly good if you just started with them square, so we'll see what happens with that. And then I'm going to do a small and large combo. I'm going to do 1 14 gauge silver and 2 18 gauge silvers, and we'll see how that twists up together and see if it looks nice or not. I'm debating whether to twist the 2 18s first and then twist it with the 14, or to twist all 3 at the same time. It'll probably produce a different look if we do it either way, so you can experiment with that if you don't like the result that I get and see if you can get something different. And then finally, I have this piece of from a video from a long time ago where I showed how to weave wire together instead. This is an even number of strands. It's 8 strands of 22 gauge, I think. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we took that and then twisted it after I kind of shape it into more of a cylindrical sort of shape. It's sort of flattish with a rounded top right now, but I can hammer it with my plastic hammer and kind of reshape it that way, and then we'll twist it and see how it comes out looking. I have no idea how that's going to look, but it might be cool, might be silly. We'll see. So let's start with twisted copper and silver, 18 gauge, which is 1 millimeter. I just use my cordless drill, and what I usually do, the chuck on this one doesn't get tight enough to handle this small a wire, so I have a little miniature chuck that I screw into the chuck. So it's I guess it's a double chuck? No? Sophisticated metalsmithing terminology. I might give this a little twist down there just to make it easier to get it to stay in the chuck. Okay, now we can see. I usually just do this all the way until it breaks. Well, the thing about twisting wire like this is, by doing that, we've really work hardened this by torquing the metal. And in order to bend it easily again, we're going to want to anneal it. So I'm going to roll this up and we're going to soften it back up, because right now it's really springy. We want it to be a little bit more malleable for the next step. Let that cool down for a minute. It should be a lot more squishy now. Oh yeah. Copper is really malleable compared to silver anyway. So, alright. So for this time, I'm going to bend it over this way. I cut off these little ones that are sticking out. Let's chuck this into the drill this way. So if I remember right from doing this a long time ago, if they're twisting that way to the right, then you want it to turn to the right in order to get this cool pattern that comes out. If they're facing the other way, twist it that way. So I need to switch which way. And then I'm going to hold this with something like, oh, I don't know, a pair of pliers. So I'm just going to grab it like this with these. See, it's starting to look less like twisted wire now and more like something else. Oops. see, but it's got a totally different look from just twisted wire when you do that. It sort of looks interlocked, kind of. And so I'm going to twist it just a little bit more to try and get a little more symmetrical. And then I think I may flatten it a little bit. We'll see how that looks. It's got kind of a triangular profile now, so I'm going to try and get that to be symmetrical before I flatten it some more. Let's see what happens when we do a little hammering. Figure out what size ring I want to make. Let's file these ends. Most times it comes, when you do stuff like that, it comes pretty close to matching up just right. So I'm going to go ahead and flux that and we'll solder it. I use primarily hard silver sheet solder. I do occasionally use some paste flux of late. That is handy once in a while. The flux I use is a liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Silversmith model. It's her acetylene air torch. Pulls in atmospheric air to mix with the gas in the tip. And produces a nice hot flame, hotter than butane or propane generally, but not as hot as oxyacetylene, which pumps pure oxygen into the flame. So it only requires the acetylene bottle, not the oxygen bottle, because it's not using pure oxygen. I love this torch, and I use a #1 tip. So, Smith are not sponsors of me, although I would be glad to take a sponsorship from Smith because I like their product. One thing I do a lot is pick soldering, and it's particularly useful when you're doing something like this because I need to get in there and put solder in a really precise area. So first off, supposing I can find the pick in all this mess that I have over here. There it is, and it's a titanium pick. I'll just pick up a little bit there, heat this thing up to the soldering temperature, and touch it where I want it to go, and if I have it at the right temperature, it should just jump on there. So it's kind of hard to see the solder joint on this one because it lines up pretty well. So I don't want a huge glob of solder, so I'm going to kind of use small pieces. When I make these sorts of twisted wire rings, people seem to really like them, so I should probably make more of them because they're almost always really popular when I go to shows. I just never think to do it. Okay, let's put it on there. Do a little tapping. It's pretty close to 7.5. What we might want to do is kind of make sure there's no wobbles. These have a tendency to get wobbles sideways a little bit. I kind of like to file the outer edge just a little bit. We'll take a peek at it after it's all polished, along with the other ones. Okay, the second one is going to involve this 12 gauge copper wire. So I can take the smaller chuck out of here now. And these I'm going to position in a triangular configuration like that, so they're all kind of hitched together. Because the chuck is triangular too, and it should fit in there pretty well then. Let's cut them off the same length. All right. Definitely feels more circular than just doing two wires together. So, but we're going to change that in a minute. Get some angst out at the same time. Oh, let's anneal this too so it's a little bit softer. Let that cool for a minute. I just realized I did the whole next one without having the camera on, so I'm going to show you how I got to this stage. So I have the 3 pieces of 12 gauge copper wire, and I'm just going to kind of put them in a triangle configuration like that, and we'll chuck them right into the drill here. I took the other mini chuck out of there because we don't need it for these ones. It's going to be one of those nights. Luckily, that electrician left me quite a few pieces of this stuff. So. It's a nice tight big twist. Let's stop about there. Doing that twisting thing will have work hardened to this again, so let's anneal it so it's a little bit more malleable. Okay. Let that cool off for a minute and we'll quench it. So I'm going to demonstrate whacking, but I'm going to go ahead and use this one since it's to that stage. All I did once I did the flattening part was I cut the end off flat, filed it nice and straight, and then I measured how long a piece I wanted, and I just kind of went a little bit bigger than the previous one, so I didn't truly measure this one. But okay, let's let that cool off. See, I'd just gotten all that pent-up angst out by whacking on the previous one, and then I screwed up, so now I have renewed angst. So it's good that I have the opportunity to do some more pounding here. See, it gives you a really nice, clean twist when you do 3 wires together. I hadn't really done that in a long time, so it's good to know that. It also makes a pretty consistent flattened twist too. I really like the fact that that comes out so neat. So I'll probably make a bunch of those. But it's time to solder this one that I did before. So hopefully I got it filed pretty nicely. Let's solder it and see. Sound like I don't have backup twisted copper wire now. We'll see how good of a seam we got. I think I got a pretty good one, so guess we'll find out in a minute. Ideally, since you're using a silver colored solder on here, just want it to be a very thin line that's not very noticeable. They do make some solder designed for copper. However, from my experience, the color doesn't match very well anyway, and it melts at a super low temperature comparatively, so I didn't think it was that great, honestly. Perhaps someone else can tell me if there's a different kind that works nicer, or if they mix up their own copper solder somehow. Let's pickle that for a while. We can move on to number 3, which is going to be, let's see, twisted square. Okay. So let's do this one. I might do this one by hand. So I made this from some 14 gauge square wire that I have. I didn't have any 16 left, so I'm just going to take 2 pieces. I find this works fine if you're just doing a short piece. Trying to get the twist to be, you know, sort of symmetrical. Because it was twisting tighter up here than it was down there. So let's do this one too. That's pretty close, I think. So let's remove those because they're going to be pretty stiff now. Oh, that's pretty cool. That is really interesting. I like that a lot. It's sort of optical illusion-y almost. It's interesting. So far, I think I'm liking this one the best. You have to tell me which one you like in the comments, if any. All right, let's get that soldered. That was not my best soldering job ever. I had one side of the gown not hot enough, and the other side was right there, so the solder jumped to one side at first. So you may need to use your rotary tool and maybe an abrasive white silicone wheel to kind of smooth it out on the inside a little bit so it's more wearable. Ideally, it's nice when they can't find your solder joints. So. Alright, we'll let that one pickle. Move on to number 4. 2 small and 1 large, so I'm going to use some 14 gauge round. I suppose you could mix and match all of these things, you know, with different metals. You incorporate some brass and copper and silver in different gauges and come up with all sorts of cool stuff, probably. If you're enjoying this and getting something out of it, hopefully, it would help me out a great deal if you would consider hitting the like button. That's the way YouTube decides whether I'm a worthy silversmith or not. So that helps with the channel's promotion. So if you don't mind, that would be great. I'd also love it if you subscribed. About 51% of my viewers are unsubscribed, if I remember right. So it doesn't cost anything or anything. All you got to do is sign up. I don't know if this will work with this size. We'll see. So I think for this one we're going to have to solder them together because I can't get them to chuck in there very well. That should make it a little more chuckable. Is that a verb? Chuckable? It is now. That's kind of nice looking. It's subtle, but it's got the 2 wires and then the 1 wire, and the 2 wires and then 1 wire. I like that. Interestingly, these, since they're not soldered together and they're different sizes, they didn't stay as stationary. So they moved a little bit when I bent them. So you may have to refile the ends to get them lined up again. So the more solder you have run down along the entire seam of these, the stiffer it's going to be. If you prevent it from running down there by using some kind of substance to stop the solder from flowing, you'll have a more, like over here you can see it's soldered together and over here it's not. You know, so I'm not sure which I like better, but I may go ahead and throw a little more solder in there just to make it look consistent. Said, this is that woven wire ring kind of stock that I made a while back. It's quite a while back actually. I'll put a link to the video if you want to see it. It's kind of a cool technique and it produces an interesting pattern. It uses even numbers rather than odd numbers. So let's just kind of squish this down sideways. Kind of just threw this one in at the end because I saw it sitting there. It's been sitting there for a while. And I either need to make it into some more of those kind of rings or try something different with it. So we're going to be experimental with it. Alright, so I'm going to anneal that. I think that's kind of tightened and narrowed. You'll have to see when we, I think I'm going to flatten this one. Let's see if that takes out some of the inconsistencies. Alright, think this is probably the least successful of the 5, but we'll see how it looks when it's all cleaned up. Okay, we'll let that one pickle too, and then I'll get those cleaned up and I'll show you the final result. So I got everything polished up, and I thought I'd show you what they turned out to be like. I think you can see it kind of alternates between silver, copper, silver, copper, silver, like that every 2. And overall, I think as that oxidizes, that's going to be a really interesting looking ring. So I think that's a success. And that's where you take one piece of 18 gauge copper, one piece of 18 gauge silver, twist it, bend it over on itself, and twist it again. This is 3 12 gauge pieces of copper wire. And I think this one I like much better than I expected, honestly. It came out really clean and nice. This one is interesting because twisting the square first made it lay nicely together, and I think that worked out well, so it gave kind of a nice texture. Unless you look close, it's hard to tell that this is distinctively 2 different sizes of wire. Maybe if you made the sizes a little bit further apart, like went with 20 gauge and 12 gauge or something like that, and see how that looks, it would be more distinctive. But I can see the differences when I look close. And this one is surprisingly cool. But that gives it kind of a randomly sort of sideways looking thing, and that's pretty cool actually. I think somebody will like that. Alright, well, I'll get some better pictures and put them at the end. Okay, well, that was some twisted wire rings. I thought that was fun. Hopefully you'll find some motivation to experiment with a little bit of twisting of wire. There's probably a zillion different variations that you can do, but if you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the like button before you go, and I'd love it if you take a moment and check out my main channel page. I have 630 plus videos now, so there's a lot of content over there, and I think there's almost certainly something you'll find that's useful and or interesting. So check them out, and I would love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. I'd love it if you left a comment too. So if you want to tell me how you do things, or an idea you had for a video, or whatever, I'd love to hear your input. So the other thing is, check out the video description down below. There's some important links. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea sketchbooks or some other merch. I find those invaluable in being able to recreate things I've made in the past. So you always have a record of them. So get yourself a couple of those. There's also a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community. It's a nice place with some really cool people. So the lowest tier is just if you want to join to get rid of the YouTube commercials, and then the tiers above that include some perks like exclusive tutorials and some live streaming and things like that. So check it out, sign up. I'd love to have you over there. And finally, there's a link to my ebooks if you want a guide to last year's or the year before's video tutorials. Each year has one, and there's a page for each of the videos that includes a picture of my original sketch, the final product that I produced with the video, a list of materials that I needed. There's a difficulty rating that's a little bit on the subjective side because it's just my opinion, but there's also some notes about each project, things I might have learned from the project, or would I do things differently, or did I think this was a failure, a success, would I ever do it again? So those kinds of things. So get yourself one of those. It's a great way to have a whole bunch of projects at your fingertips, and a nice way to support my channel. So I appreciate it in advance. Alright, well, thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Happy silversmithing.